All right. Hello and welcome to Expressions of Love in Indian Classical Music, an evening of music and discovery brought to you by the Indian Music Experience Museum in collaboration with the mellifluous Dr. Radhika Joshi. The Indian Music Experience is India's first interactive music museum. Located in JP Nagar, Bengaluru, the IME is a non-profit initiative supported by the vision of the IME is to introduce the youths to the diversity of Indian music and to preserve India's rich musical heritage. Dr. Radhika Joshi is a young and promising Hindustani vocalist of the Jaipur Atroli Gharana. She is a disciple of Pandit Raghunandan Panchikar. Dr. Joshi has also had the privilege of studying semi-classical forms of music such as Thumri, Kajri, Hori, Dadra from Padma Bhushan Srimati Girija Devi at the Sangeet Research Academy, Kolkata. Over the past few years, Dr. Joshi has presented her music at several music festivals in India and abroad. She is a recipient of the National Scholarship for Performing Arts awarded by the Government of India and is a graded artist of the All India Radio. Dr. Joshi is very passionate about spreading her love for Hindustani music and preserving the rich tradition. Love and music are loyal companions. While the ways in which we express love may change, the emotion remains constant. This evening, Dr. Joshi will share her thoughts and music with us, illustrating how love is expressed and emoted in Indian classical music. With that, I invite Dr. Radhika Joshi to start her much-awaited presentation. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So welcome all to today's very interesting session. And thanks to IME for encouraging me to think about a presentation of this form. So we often talk about how love is expressed, and preparing for this presentation today has allowed me to channelize my own thoughts and put them on paper. So this is a lot of work in progress. Really, it's a huge topic, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to handle everything. So without further ado, welcome. And so as you just rightly said, love is a very intense emotion. It's a universal emotion. And in our own life cycle, I think when we are all born as babies, the first love that we all experience is that of mother's love, Vatsalya Bhav. And when we talk about a mother's love or a baby's love for her mother, both ways, there are some compositions that come to mind in Hindustani music. Or there's a very famous bhajan sung by Lataji, Thumaka Chalata Ramachandra. Or there's a bhajan, there's a bandish in Raag Darbari, which Ustad Bade Ghulam Ali Khan Sahab used to sing. Anokha Ladala Khelan ko mange chand. But and then there's a lot of depiction of baby Krishna, and baby Krishna, Yashoda's love for baby Krishna, and there are several compositions describing that. Another form of love that's often spoken about is Madhura Bhakti, which is love or devotion between Krishna and all the gopis in Mathura. And this is not really physical love, it's imaginary love, to say in one way. And it's an interplay between God and our soul and our being. And then many different forms of love that we often experience or talk about. But I think the most common form of love that is most spoken about is romantic love, even in Hindustani music, either between Radha and Krishna or just between two lovers. And so that is what I think the focus of the discourse today will focus on how romantic love has been treated in the Hindustani music tradition. Now, when we speak about music, there are two aspects to music, right? There are the words, the lyrics, and there is the tune. And in Hindustani music, there are sort of two components. One is what we call as Shabda Pradhan Gayaki, which is music where the words are more important. And the other, which is Swara Pradhan Gayaki, which is music where the notes are more important. And I think what is special about this form of music is that, all forms of music really, where the notes have the power to create certain emotions. I mean, that's why we put a poem into a tune, right? Because the tune adds to the helps us convey the emotion better. And so the first part of my presentation today, I'm going to talk about Swar Pradhan Gaiki, or what we call as Khayal, शास्त्रीय संगीत जिसमें हम ख्याल की बात करते हैं. Khayal, in Khayal we have rags, and these different rags consists of different notes, and it is these notes that have the power to create certain emotions which then convey a certain bhav. So to begin with, I personally feel that rags that have shuddha notes, the basic notes, let me just demonstrate. So, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa, these are our shuddha notes. And rags that focus on these major scales often have compositions that depict happiness or bliss in romance. I'm sure we'll all agree that romance or love itself has many emotions, right, ranging from ecstasy, bliss, super happiness, contentment, anger, jealousy, sadness, and this whole spectrum is conveyed by different notes. So I think it is Shuddha notes in particular that have been used primarily to convey happiness. So let me begin with a composition in Raag Bhoop. It's a pentatonic scale, which has been sung by Kishori Amonkar ji. It is a traditional composition, and I'll put out the lyrics for you up there. So, येरी आज भैलवा सुखवा मोरे जिया की सुन सुन पिया की बातें. A loose translation would be, dear friend, it so happened today that my heart was full of contentment and happiness listening to my lover speak. The antara is a little ambiguous, but could perhaps be read as a conversation between the Naika telling Sadarang, who is the poet, composer, that her lover told her he would come and that he facilitated the meeting, thus helping her get the job done. So let me present this bandish to you in Raag Bhoop. Before that, I would like to just present the notes of the rag, since we are talking about how the notes are creating emotions and conveying this emotion. So, ये skip the antara, but what I wanted to convey to you is that these notes have a very soothing and calming effect, and yeri aaj bhailava sukhava, so that bliss from sambhog or from union with the lover I think is conveyed very beautifully in this composition. The other composition that comes to my mind is Drut Bandish, a faster paced composition in a rag called Tilak Kamod. So another aspect about presenting a composition and the emotions that come from the composition is the speed of the composition. So the composition that we just heard in Raag Bhoop was a slow-paced composition, which I think presents the bliss in a shant, peaceful environment, peaceful feeling to it. Now the next composition presents the joy or happiness, ecstasy कि कोई मेरे घर आया है, आवत घर अब बलम मोरा, सब मिल गाओ बजाओ. आवत घर अब बलम मोरा, सब मिल गाओ बजाओ. आवत घर अब बलम मोरा, सब मिल गाओ बजाओ. नए नए फूलन के गजरे गूंद 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 लाओ, सब मिल गाओ बजाओ. आवत घर अब बलम मोरा. So the words are pretty easy to understand. Avata ghara ab balam mora. My lover has come home. Sab mila gao bajao. Let us come together, play music. Naye naye phoolan ke gajre, gund gund lao. Let's make new garlands from the flowers. Let's come together and rejoice. So she's celebrating the arrival of her lover with pomp and ceremony. Now, these were the compositions of joy of union or sambhog. Now, if we were to express separation, vipralamba, that is a common topic that is touched upon in love in classical music, where on one hand we have the joy of coming together, the other hand are the pangs of separation, the pain, the anger, the anguish that one feels because our lover is not with us. And so to express this sadness or this sorrow, which are the notes that can convey the emotion? So there are many different ways, many different notes in which sadness or sorrow can be expressed. And mind you, I'm sure that you will come across compositions in any rag which express diametrically opposite views. So for example, you may find a composition that expresses sorrow, anguish in a particular rag, and also find a composition that expresses happiness, again with the same notes. And so that is where the words come into play. And another aspect is each of us has the freedom to interpret the notes or the bhav that comes from the notes in our own way. So when I just sing a phrase, what may sound very pleasing to somebody may sound meditative to another person, may sound melancholy to another person. And so I think there is room for self-interpretation when I talk about notes. So if you look at the ancient texts in Natya Shastra or even several other like classical music texts, notes have been ascribed emotions. For example, the third note, ga, sa, re, ga. This note, Gandhar, is supposed to be of Karun Ras. Pa is supposed to be of Shringar Ras. But it is very hard to sort of imagine emotions from individual notes. So what we usually say is that a phrase has a certain emotion and a rag is a combination of these phrases. And so a rag conveys a certain bhav or a mood. And so the next rag that I will be presenting, I'll be presenting a scale that has two komal notes. The third note, ga, and the seventh note, ni, are now komal. So my scale is sa, re, ga, ma, pa, dha, ni, sa, ni, da, pa, ma, ga, re, sa. These are the notes that I'm going to be presenting. And I think depending on how they are used, these notes, the ga komal and ni komal, can convey very different emotions. The first composition that I'm going to be presenting is in Raag Bhageshri. The words are कौन गत भई मोरी पिया न पूछे एक हूँ बात एक बन ढूंढू सकल बन ढूंढू ढूंढू डार डार पात कर पात पात. You have the words in front of you. So I think this rag, the way the Gandhar, the third note is adorned usually, sa ma da ni sa ga re re sa ga ga ma ga re ga ma ga re sa. I think these phrases have a sense of self-pity, sadness in them, which this composition in particular depicts very well. So just the way these notes were sung, it is very difficult to express supreme happiness or excitement with these notes, right? But yet, I feel there is some sort of fondness, some sort of happiness is probably not the right word, but some positivity associated with the romance. In contrast, the next rag which I will be presenting, Raag Bhimpalas, has the same notes, Ga Komal and Ni Komal. But the way the composition, but the way the notes are sung, especially the Komal Nishad, So the words are Re Biraha Babana Saguna Bicharo. Bamana is a fortune teller. So she's asking the fortune teller, please tell me when my husband, my lover is going to be coming home. Jab se gaye mori sudahu nalini. Ever since he's gone away, I'm not able to focus. Kina sautana bilama rahe mora. Which sautan is he with? So these notes, So these notes to me convey extreme helplessness. Ki Saguna Bicharu, just please tell me some good news about when he is coming. And that helplessness is brought about, I think, by the way that Komal Nishad, the Andolan or the repetition of this note is creating that intense sorrow that is depicted in this composition. So moving over now to compositions that have that are based more on the Shabda Pradhan compositions. Most common of these are Thumri. So Thumri is known for its erotic content, often use of metaphors alluding to sexual attraction, or sometimes they just describe play between Radha and Krishna. So the composition that I'll be presenting to you first has very strong imagery, where Radha tells Krishna, please wait for me, just hold on. While I go home, keep my pot. Gagari मैं घरे धरी आऊं, करी आऊं 16 singar. Let me dress up, let me adorn for you. And 16 singar was the way in which Radha used to adorn herself, decorate herself, or brides usually decorate themselves on their wedding day with necklaces, earrings, bindi, flower, sandalwood paste, so on and so forth. So Sola Singar has been spoken about a lot in our text. So this composition is a Thumri in Raag Khamaj, which I think has very nice, the way it is developed, it has very nice description, but a very positive vibe to the way in which Radha is communicating her love for Krishna. Just 1 second. Khamaj. बाके शाम बाके शाम ठाड़े रहो बाके शाम गगरिया घर धरिया ठाड़े रहो बाके शाम गगरी में धरी चुनरी पहिरिया करिया 16 श्रृंगार रे ठाड़े रहो बाके शाम. Sorry, my voice has been giving trouble. So if you Thumris are generally sung as an accompaniment to to Kathak dance. So when this is sung with a dancer, the imagery is even more vivid. कि गगरी मैं घर पे रख के आती हूँ, 16 सिंगार करके आती हूँ. But even by itself, the way vocalists sing a Thumri, I'm sure some of you may have heard Girija Devi ji or Shobha Gurtu ji presenting Thumris. So, करियाओ 16 सिंगार रे, ठाड़े रहो बाके शाम. So it's a very nice plea to Krishna. Please wait, I'll be back. So after that very pretty composition, which I really like, the next composition that I have for you is again looking at a lament. Mora saiya bulave aadhi raat, nadiya beri bahi. It's a very famous Thumri in Raag Des. Sunare Malaha. Malaha is somebody who rows the boat. So she's telling the boatsman, "Hu to teri cheri, I am at your mercy. Naiya laga dijo par. Please help me cross the river." Now by itself, Raag Des is a very happy tune, and Des has been used in many different contexts. So this is where I mean that the notes have the power to create a certain emotion. Words, when they dominate, are able to add on to the note, to the emotion that was created by the notes, to create a certain feeling. So here in Mora Saiya Bulave Aadhi Raat, it is the words that are conveying. The complaint here is that Nadiya Beri Bhai. So she's upset that it's, I mean, there are many problems. The first, that it's Aadhi Raat. Mora Saiya Bulave Aadhi Raat. It's in the middle of the night. Nadiya Beri Bhai, and I need to cross the road somehow, cross the river somehow. And so it's beyond her control. She's at the mercy of the boatsman who's going to take her across the river. And this kind of helplessness in a very different way. It's a very, it's not that helplessness that we saw in Raag Bhimpalas, where there is absolutely nothing that one can do. Here it's more of a plea that, or just irritation that help me cross the road. Sorry, I keep saying road. Help me cross the river. Ye mora saiya, saiya bulave aadhi raat re, नदिया बरी भई रे, नदिया बरी भई. सुन रे मलाह, सुन रे मलाह, सुन सुन रे मलाह, हूँ तो तेरी छेरी, तेरी छेरी, नैया लगा दी जो पार रे, नैया लगा दी जो पार रे, नदिया बरी भई रे. So I think this is a very pretty composition. Despite the lament, it's still a very nice composition where it's a light complaint, so to say, कि नैया लगा दी जो पार नदिया बैरी भई. Now in contrast, the next Thumri that I have for you is a Sawan ki Thumri. Now this in my mind is similar to the composition that I sang in Raag Bhimpalasi. बैठी सोची ब्रिज बाम सुनो लागे मेरो धाम नहीं आए घनश्याम घेरी आई बदरी. So this घेरी आई बदरी it's a Sawan ki Thumri, so it's describing the dark clouds that are adding to her loneliness, sorrow, and the tune here is very intense. It's a composition in Raag Mishra Pilu. Sorry. बैठी सोची ब्रिज बैठी सोची ब्रिज सुनो लागे मेरो धाम सुनो लागे मेरो धाम नहीं आए घनश्याम घेरी आई बदरी कान्हा हमें बिसरा रहे सौतन लोभा करूं कौवन उपाय करूं कौवन उपाय घेरी आई बदरी. And finally it's a surrender कि ये भक्त कहाँ जाएगा. राम भक्त को जा राम भक्त को जा लावे पिया को मना जिया कसक मिटाए जिया कसक मिटाए घेरी आई बदरी. So after this very intense, sad composition full of melancholy and intense sorrow. The next composition I have for you is Dadra in Raag Mand. Now, Mand is a tune that's usually sung in Rajasthan. It's a folk tune from Rajasthan. The composition here is saying, "Jao ji jao, मुँह से ना बोलो, कहाँ गवाई सारी रात. Go away, don't tell me where you spent the night. सगरी रैन मैं तो राह तकत रही. I spent all night waiting for you. इंतजार करते रही. आए हो मेरे घर प्रात." Now, this composition can be interpreted in many different ways. On the face value, you have "Jao ji jao," just go. Just don't talk to me, go away. Because you've spent the night with somebody else while I have been waiting for you. So, किस मुंह से वापस आ रहे हो मेरे पास? Right? That's one way to look at it. Another way is to say कि सगरी रैन मैं तो राह तकत रही. I spent all night waiting for you. आए हो मेरे घर रात. तो ठीक है, आए हो मेरे घर. You've come back to me. प्रातः, सारी रात गुजारने के बाद आए हो, पर आए हो तो सही. तो जाओ जी मतलब आओ जी. Don't really go away. Come back to me. So there are many different ways, and I think in this composition there are many different shades, and it's the interplay of the way the notes and the words are used that different emotions are conveyed within the same composition. So let me present this composition to you. Sorry, my voice has not been well. जाओ जी जाओ मुझसे न बोलो. हाँ जाओ जी जाओ मुझसे न बोलो. कहाँ गवाई सारी रात. जाओ जी जाओ जी जाओ जाओ जी जाओ जाओ जी जाओ मुझसे न बोलो. कहाँ गवाई सारी रात. कहाँ गवाई सारी रात. सगरी रैन में तो सगरी रैन में तो सगरी रैन में तो सगरी रैन में तो राह तकत रही. आए हो मेरे आए हो मेरे आए हो मेरे आए हो मेरे घर प्रात. आए हो मेरे घर प्रात कहाँ गवाई सारी रात। जाओ जी जाओ जी जाओ जी जाओ जी जाओ जी जाओ, मुँह से न बोलो कहाँ गवाई सारी रात। Indian music draws heavily from, sorry, sorry, just lost my slide. Yeah. So Indian music draws heavily from the imagery or nature around us. So seasons play a great role, especially in the folk music that we hear around us. Seasons play a great role. And so what we have next is a Chaiti. Chaiti is a composition that is sung in the Chaita Mass, sometime around March or April, when the koyal calls out very loudly. And in this composition, the Naika is saying that the call of the koyal is reminding me, Huka uthata more manava ho Rama. In my mind, it's sort of reminding me of my lover. Yaad avat jab piya ke milan ki, bhara bhara avela nayanava. My eyes brim with tear because the koyal reminds me of my union with my lover. I'm almost done with time, so चैत मास बोले ले कोयलिया हो रामा, मोरे आंगनवा। चैत मास बोले ले कोयलिया हो रामा, मोरे आंगनवा। कुहुक कुहुक करे कारी रे कोयलिया, हुक उठत मोरे मनवा हो रामा, हुक उठत मोरे मनवा हो रामा, मोरे आंगनवा। याद आवत जब पिया के मिलन की, भर भर आवेला नयनवा हो रामा, मोरे आंगनवा। So I'm going to sing one last composition to you, and that is that in the Indian music tradition, Bhakti and Shringar are often spoken to be two sides of the same coin, where on one side Piya could be addressing the Almighty, or Piya could be addressing the lover. And so it could be love for God, the divine, the ultimate, or love in its physical sense for our lover. This composition, composed by Gana Saraswati Kishori Amonkar ji, says, Tose neha laga mora savaro tana mana dhana tope varu. I would like to offer my tana mana dhana to you. Now savaro again could be either in the bhakti form or shrungaric form. So this is the composition that I'll be ending my session with today, and after which we will have questions. So this is based in Raag Yaman, which again is a very evergreen Raag, which has been used extensively for Bhakti Geet as well as Shrungaric Geet. So I think it's very apt that this composition was composed in this Raag. तुलसी नेहा लागा मोरा सावरू तना मना धन वारो मोरा तुलसी नेहा लागा Thank you.
Thank you, Radhika ji, for that absolutely enchanting and wonderful presentation. I'm sure everyone joining us will agree that we had a lot to learn today, and we have all developed a better understanding and appreciation for Indian classical music. So thank you so much. Without further ado, we will dive straight into questions. We already have 3 questions. So the first one is from Mansi Prasad, our museum director. She wants that, do you have Drupad compositions in Shringar Ras, or was that only with the advent of Khayal?
So, Mansi, I'm not an authority on Drupad, so I'm not the best person to answer this. But in my knowledge, there are certain compositions that, so I don't know if we can call this Shringar Ras. For example, there's a composition in Nike Kannada, Mero Piya Rasiya Sunari Sakhi Tero Dosha. I know the words, but I'll have to sing it out. I can't narrate it that way. But Mero Piya Rasya, now again, it's up to us to interpret whether Mero Piya was addressed to the Piya as a lover or Mero Piya as in I'm the Almighty. So whether it was written with a Shringarik bhav in mind or Bhakti bhav in mind, we don't know. But in general, Drupad compositions by itself were presented more in a temple, in a more religious setting, as far as I know. But again, I could be not an expert on Drupad, so could be wrong.
So she also has another question. So in Carnatic music, you have few javalis from the male perspective, and of course in Gita Govind also there are poems of Krishna pining for Radha. Do you find Thumris / Bandish from the male perspective?
Very rarely, actually. I think so. Male perspective होगा that you, मतलब जो pathos है, जो emotion है. Like I've seen male singers sing Thumri with Mora Saiya Bulave Adhi Raat and rest. So now Saiya could be a female Saiya in his mind, but I haven't come across compositions which I think it's always the woman who's doing the pining and waiting.
Okay, so next question is from Subnandani. They want to mention different bandishes that showcase different ras bhav in the same raag. Demonstrate.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
So her question is that you mentioned different bandishes that showcase different ras and bhav within the same raag. So could you
an example of
illustrate that?
Yeah. So for example, there's a raag Ahir Bhairav, right? With 2 komal notes, re and ni komal. So sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga ma re sa. There's a bandish in this. Sorry, what did I just sing? Sa ni da ni re sa. Piya nahi aaya, 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 piya nahi a lyrics completely, but Piya nahi aaye, nainan mein neend bhar aaye. So she has been waiting all night, similar context, and Piya nahi aaye. It's a Vilambit composition in Raag Bhoop. And of course, we have our very famous composition in Ahir Bhairav, Sajan Ayo Re. So now this is Sajan Ayo. Mora manat hi sukh payo re. So exact same notes, sukh payo re, versus the first composition was Piya nahi aaye, nainan mein. There's some word, asu bhara hai, something of that effect. I don't remember the word exactly. But two contrasting emotions, right? On one hand you have asu, on hand you have sukha payo. Both in Ahir Bhairav.
So we have one more question from Mr. Mohan. She wants to know, is there why Hindustani music celebrates love more than other forms like Carnatic music?
I think the Carnatic tradition is more for devotional. Matlab, the context that is used in Carnatic music was with the intent of presenting music in a temple, not in a court. I think that's where the main difference is, that Hindustani music was presented to the king in a court, in a darbar, and Thumris especially were sung in kothas. So traditionally, right? So the audience matters, and so when a composition is presented in a darbar versus in a mandir, the lyrics are bound to be different. And I think that's why in Carnatic music most compositions are still very devotional in nature.
Okay, those are all the questions that we had. We still have about 5 minutes on the clock, so if anyone tuning in would like to ask a question, please feel free.
Nope. Any questions?
Mr. or Ms. Rajni Purandare has raised their hand. I would request them to pop your question in the chat box. All right. So Mr. Ashwin Kalbag wants to know, how does influence the creation of Shringar?
How does?
How does Tal influence the creation of Shringar?
So I think speed, I think I spoke about this, that the speed of the composition will also define the bhav that is conveyed, right? So if it's a composition that's fast, आए मोरे घर मंदिर साजन वाए मोरे घर मंदिर. If you had to show happiness, if you had to show excitement, it has to be in a drut composition, versus if you're showing subtle bliss, if you're showing just that moment, that peace, calmness, you can't really do that from a fast-paced, fast-tempo composition. So I think the lay matters. Tal again. So for example, some tals have a lilt, right? The dadra that I presented. So javo ji javo, or chet mas bolele koyali aavo. These lilts again create a mood. I'm not sure they would really define the ras of a composition by just by a tal. So like same speed, different tal, I don't think will have much impact.
Right. So we have a request from one of our audience members. If you could give us a line or two from Girija Devi's music, whom you have trained under. So
sure, we can end with that. So I'll end with a Thumri and Bhairavi, because that's the tradition really. So I was going to present this composition anyway, Babul Mora Nehar Chuto Jai, right? It's a very famous composition. I'm sure all of you have heard it. It also depicts love between father and daughter, right? Babul Mora. So this composition has three different ways in which it could be interpreted. This was sung. One is Babul Mora Nehar Chuto Jai. The daughter, the bride, is telling her father ki I'm leaving my Mecca chhod ke main sasural ja rahi hu, and I'm sort of going to miss my old home. The other is Wajid Ali Shah, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, who is said to have penned this, sang this composition when he was asked to leave Lucknow during the revolt of 1857. So Nehar Chuto Jai is his empire that he left behind in Lucknow. And the third is Nehar Chuto Jai is we're all one day going to depart our worldly existence and leave for the heavenly abode. So Nehar Chuto Jai is we're leaving for the heavenly abode. So I'll end with this composition.
Beautiful.
Just sing 2 lines. Actually, my voice is hurting a lot. Just sing with 2, end with 2 lines. Babul Mora, Babul Mora, Babul Mora, Nehar Chuto Jai, Nehar Chuto Jai.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, Radhika ji. With that, we come to the end of today's fascinating session. I would like to thank our speaker once again, Dr. Radhika Joshi, for giving us your time and your music. Everyone attending, many thanks to all of you. For more updates about our events, you can head to our website, indianmusicexperience.org, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.